Hi guys, and welcome to my top 15 side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Now this is a genre that's very close to my heart, and a genre that was very popular during the late 80s and 90s, but it's kind of petered out a little bit in recent times. But I think the reason that the genre is so popular is because you can just jump right in. Everyone can learn how to play the game straight away. They're very simple in structure, but not necessarily easy to master. So a bit of perseverance is needed, and just getting that one level further and getting past that boss, and learning that boss's pattern and what have you. And they're all very similar in structure. Go from A to B, fight various bad guys, and then a boss on each level. But they normally have really great graphical style, lovely 2D graphics, and usually have really fantastic soundtracks. So it's a genre that I love very much, and there's a lot of games in this list that I really love, and some of my favourite games of all time, especially the numbers 1 and 2 picks, which you will hopefully see if you make it that far. But yeah, without further ado guys, we'll crack on with my top 15 beat-em-ups. Kicking off the list, we have Splatterhouse 2 at number 15. This was published by Namco in 1992 on the Mega Drive. Splatterhouse 2 features gameplay very similar to the first game. The player controls Rick through 8 different levels. Attacks are also similar to the first game, whereby the player is able to punch, kick, jump kick and slide kick, as well as use several weapons scattered throughout the levels. Each level features a boss at the end, often some form of hideous monster. New additions to the gameplay include a difficulty setting and a password system for the English version. Number 14, we have the Simpsons arcade game, released by Konami in 1991. This is the first of 3 Konami games in this list actually that are very similar in structure and gameplay. So you control the Simpson family, so Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa and Maggie. And the story goes that they're taking a stroll through town and they come across a jewellery store being robbed by Waylon Smithers, who then bumps into Homer, leading a precious diamond he stole to land in Maggie's mouth. So Maggie is now using the diamond as sort of a makeshift pacifier. So Smithers takes Maggie with him, sending various goons to keep the Simpsons family from following. So the Simpsons family fight their way through various areas such as Krusty Land, Moe's Tavern and even a dream world, and the Simpsons eventually arrive at the Springfield nuclear power plant, where they face against Smithers, but then also against Mr. Burns, who in a fantastic boss battle attacks them in a plutonium powered mech suit. So after managing to defeat Mr. Burns, the Simpsons rescue Maggie and head back home, throwing the diamond away. Now it's obviously a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but it's for up to 4 players, each one playing as a member of the Simpsons family, and each different family member has a particular skill. So Marge swings her vacuum cleaner as an attack, Homer punches and kicks, Bart has his skateboard, and Lisa attacks with a jump rope. So along with the standard array of jumping and attacking, 2 players can combine together to form sort of a joint attack, which differs depending on which combination of characters are used. For example, Homer can lift Bart up to use him as a melee weapon, whilst teaming him up with Marge puts them into a powerful cartwheel attack. Number 13, we have another Konami release, very similar in structure to the Simpsons arcade game as I mentioned, and this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, released in 1989 at the arcades. Now the player chooses from one of the 4 Ninja Turtles, so Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello and Raphael, as I'm sure you know. So basic story is Shredder kidnaps the Turtles' friend April O'Neil and their mentor Splinter, who must give chase, saving their comrades and defeating the evil Shredder. So this is up to 4 players, although some arcade cabs did have a 2-player version. So you can take control of any of the turtles. So Donatello has sort of slower attacks but a longer range. Michelangelo and Raphael have faster attacks but shorter range, and Leonardo's kind of an all-round guy with average range and speed. Now, the majority of the enemies the turtles face off against are foot soldiers, but they wear different coloured uniforms depending on what weapon they have. So the purple-clad foot soldiers have the ability to hold the turtles from behind, also draining their health and leaving them open to attack by other foot soldiers. Fantastic array of bosses in the game, including Bebop and Rocksteady, Baxter Stockman, Krang, and of course Shredder himself. The attract mode of the game actually features a segment of the original cartoon intro, along with a portion of the theme tune. Number 12, we have the X-Men arcade game, released again by Konami in 1992. I won't say too much about this game because it is very similar in structure to the previous two, although I think it's the best. Now, the player chooses one of 6 X-Men, so you've got Cyclops, Colossus, Wolverine, Storm, Nightcrawler or Dazzler. The objective is to stop the villain Magneto from wreaking havoc on human civilization. So on the way you'll encounter classic X-Men villains such as Nimrod, Juggernaut, Mystique and numerous Sentinels. Each character has a unique mutant power which can be very effective, albeit at the cost of 3 health points. Number 11, we have an absolute classic arcade game, Double Dragon, released in 1987 by Technos. Now, the reason I love this game so much is because I used to go on holiday abroad, and the hotel we used to stay at for several years had various arcade cabs, but for a few years they had Double Dragon arcade cabs, so I spent many hours putting my pocket money into this machine. So this is a very early example of the beat-em-up genre, an absolute classic, and it's received numerous home conversions. So the player takes control of martial artist Billy Lee or his twin brother Jimmy as they fight their way into the turf of the Black Warriors gang in order to rescue Billy's love interest Marion. Now, the player has a large range of martial arts moves at their disposal, from basic kicks and punches to grabs and a ridiculously overpowered elbow strike. Now, if the game is completed in 2-player co-op, after the final boss is defeated, the two must face off to decide who will garner Marion's affections. At number 10, we have The Punisher, released by Capcom in 1993 at the arcades, and then it came to the Genesis in North America in 94, and then subsequently the Mega Drive in Europe in 1995. The game features the titular Marvel character The Punisher and shields Nick Fury as the second player, as they fight their way to defeating crime lord Kingpin and dismantling his criminal organisation. The game features great gameplay and stunning graphics which feature detailed backgrounds and destructible environments. Sadly, many of its endearing features were either cut down or removed from the subsequent Mega Drive port. Coming in at number 9 is Knights of Valor, released in 1999 by IGS. Knights of Valor features absolutely stunning graphics, fluid gameplay, and spawns several sequels. The plot's loosely adapted from the Chinese historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. As far as I know, the series hasn't had any home conversions, sadly, which is a great shame, as with its chunky sprites and beautiful 2D backdrops, it would have been right at home on the Saturn. As an interesting side note, one of the characters from the game, Zhuge Liang, is a famous character from Chinese history, and this guy was a next level tactician. And there's a famous story where he had this ongoing rivalry with another great tactician called Sima Yi, and this Sima Yi was absolutely terrified of him because he knew how much of a great tactician this guy was. So anyway, they had this huge battle where Zhuge Liang was in his fortress and Sima Yi was attacking, and he was hugely outnumbered by Sima Yi. So he knows that if he actually attacks the castle, that's game over. So when Sima Yi arrives, he actually finds that the castle gates are wide open and there's no one in sight at all, apart from Zhuge Liang himself, who's sitting on the castle walls and he's playing a Chinese string instrument of some sort, and he's in full sight of the approaching army. So Sima Yi was so taken aback by this that he thought, this Zhuge Liang must be up to something, there must be a trap. So he sees this completely empty fortress with the gates wide open and no sign of anyone, so he just thinks, no, hell no, this has got to be a trap, and he leaves. So Zhuge Liang famously won that battle with this fantastic bluff. Number 8, we have another Capcom title, Alien vs Predator, released in 1994. Many are aware of the Alien vs Predator universe, but fewer have played this fantastic arcade game. The game features 4 playable characters, 2 cyborg soldiers and 2 predators, each offering their own skills and play style. The story involves humans and predators fighting aliens, yada yada yada. Most importantly, the gameplay is frantic and varied with some great bosses. It's definitely worth taking some time to figure out which character best suits your own playstyle. If you have access to MAME or any other resource through which you can play this game, I'd thoroughly recommend giving it a blast. At number 7 we have Golden Axe, which out of everything on this list is the one that probably people would be most familiar with. This was released in the arcade in 1989 by Sega, and it hit the Mega Drive Genesis the same year, although didn't come to Europe until 1990. It's an absolute classic that I've never actually really played in the arcade much, but I spent a lot of time with it on the Mega Drive and the Amiga. The lead developer has cited that he was heavily influenced by action movies such as Conan, and that influence is readily apparent upon inspection of the game. The story is based around the villain Death Adder, who has captured the king and his daughter along with the titular Golden Axe, and is threatening to destroy all 3 unless the people accept him as their new ruler. Needless to say, the game's 3 heroes set off on a quest to defeat Death Adder and subsequently save the kingdom. Featuring fantastic gameplay, some well-animated magic spells and a great soundtrack, this game is atop many a gamer's favourites list. At number 6 we have Dungeons & Dragons Collection for the Sega Saturn, which is technically cheating because I know it's 2 games. So the 2 games featured in the Dungeons & Dragons Collection are Tower of Doom, which was released at the arcades in 1993, and Shadow over Mystara, which was released in 1996, with the Dungeons & Dragons Collection being released for the Saturn in 1999. Released by Capcom, it's a Japanese only exclusive. Fantastic game, absolutely amazing graphics for the Saturn, so it was quite a late release, obviously being 1999, Saturn exclusive, and like I said, Japanese only. The game features various RPG elements with forking paths and multiple endings, along with the ability to obtain new equipment and spells as experience is gained. The games also feature hidden items to collect and a vast assortment of weapons and armour. Shadow over Mystara was one of the last 2D side-scrollers to be made by Capcom. Boosted by the 4MB RAM cart, these games look absolutely stunning running on the Saturn hardware. Coming in at number 5 we have another Sega Saturn game, which is Guardian Heroes, developed by Treasure and published by Sega in 1996. It's another beat 'em up featuring RPG elements, and the development team actually called Guardian Heroes a fighting RPG. The game features 5 playable characters and multiple storylines depending upon the player's actions. There are a number of points at which the path branches, giving the player the option of which route to take. Different routes contain different bosses, levels and endings. In addition to a karma meter, the game awards the player with XP. Between scenes, the player can then select which of their 6 attributes they wish to improve. These are Strength, determining attack power, Vitality, determining HP, Intelligence, affecting the power of spells, mentality, determining the amount of magic points available and their recovery rate, agility, affecting attack speed, and luck, which I think involves modifiers for damage and defense. The gameplay takes place across 3 planes, giving the player freedom to switch planes at any time, which is particularly useful for evasive maneuvers. At number 4 we have Knights of the Round, released in arcades in 1991 by Capcom, and it came to the Super Nintendo in 1994, although it got no European release. It's based loosely on the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Has a very basic plot. Arthur, with the help of Knights Lancelot and Percival, is sent by Merlin on a mission to defeat the evil King Garibaldi and unite England. It has a very basic plot. Arthur, with the help of Knights Lancelot and Percival, is sent by Merlin on a mission to defeat the evil King Garibaldi and unite England. The game features RPG elements wherein a fighter's weapons and armour will automatically receive enhancements as they progress. Gameplay is similar to other Capcom beat-em-ups, although with more of a reliance on blocking. Hitting the top 3 now, we have firstly Final Fight, which was released internationally into arcades in December 1989, but not reaching the Super Nintendo in Europe until 3 years later. Released by Capcom, probably the most well-known side-scrolling beat-em-up, and definitely the most well-known Capcom one. The basic story is Jessica, the daughter of Mike Haggar, the newly elected mayor of Metro City, and who is also a former professional wrestler, is abducted by the Mad Gear gang to coerce him into cooperating with them. Haggar and Jessica's boyfriend Cody, a martial arts master skilled with knives, and Guy, Cody's friend and a master of ninjutsu, go to defeat Mad Gear and rescue Jessica. Hugely influential on the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre, characters in the game are featured in many other games as playable characters or with cameo appearances, including the 3 playable characters Haggar, Cody and Guy, and enemy bosses Relento and Sodom. The SNES version was rather cut down compared to the arcade version, removing characters Guy and Relento, changing the story significantly, and co-op play was removed, resulting in a solely single-player experience. At number 2 we have my absolute favourite arcade game, as many of you know, and that's Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, another Capcom release released in the arcades in 1993. Now up to 3 players can play at once, guiding their selected characters through 8 stages, battling various enemies and bosses. There are 4 playable characters, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Jack is the balance type, you've got Hannah the skill type, Mustafa the speed type, and Mess the power type. The game's titular dinosaurs make appearances as neutral characters that may attack both player characters and enemies. In Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, the player has access to several attacks. Each character has 2 special moves, including one that depletes a character's health upon contact with an enemy, and when 2 or more players play together, they can trigger a team attack. Players can also find and use various firearms, throwing weapons such as rocks and explosives, and melee weapons such as clubs. The plot is based on the comic Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and takes place in the City in the Sea and its neighbouring nearby jungle. The story starts 500 years from the 20th century when an ensemble gang called the Black Marketeers begin hunting the dinosaurs to serve their unknown purpose. The continuous hunting process has made the dinosaurs violent, and now they have started attacking villagers and people. The reason that I fell in love with this game so much, leading to it becoming my all-time favourite arcade game, is the mad storyline and setting, and the varied weapons obtainable throughout the game. It's very similar to other Capcom fighters such as Final Fight, but with added craziness with all the dinosaurs and the Cadillacs and what have you, and some really cool weapons. And finally, in my number 1 spot, we have Streets of Rage 2, aka Bare Knuckle 2, which was released in Europe and North America in January 1993 by Sega on the Sega Mega Drive. This was an easy pick for my favourite beat 'em up, and it's my all-time favourite Mega Drive game. This game was a huge step up graphically from the previous Streets of Rage and got everything right, having beautiful chunky sprites, varied locations, a good range of difficulties, a good selection of characters and corresponding moves, and a killer soundtrack. The game introduced 2 new characters, professional wrestler Max Thunder, who's my personal favourite, and Eddie Skate Hunter, who's known as Sammy Hunter in Japan, brother of Adam Hunter from the original game. Each character has various basic attacks, along with sliding or dash move, which is triggered by double tapping forwards and pressing attack. Holding both the jump and attack buttons simultaneously will trigger a backwards attack. Streets of Rage 2 replaces the special attack from the first game, whereby backup can be called to rain down an explosive weapon attack on screen, similar in principle to the magic attacks in Golden Axe, with a strong attack. This strong attack will knock down any enemies in the immediate vicinity, although the player is required to trade a small amount of health to do so. Story-wise, a year has passed since the events in the original Streets of Rage. Skate arrives home from school to find his house in a state and his older brother Adam gone. Attached to the front door is a picture of Adam chained at the feet of Mr. X. The 4 heroes then embark on a rescue mission to defeat Mr. X once more and subsequently save Adam. The game, unlike the other 2 games in the series, has only one ending, and has an amazing contemporary soundtrack from Yuzo Koshiro, centering around electronic dance music. I think the reason this game is so successful is, besides the fact that it's just amazing, it's an almost perfect game, is it just came at the right time, 1993, the dance music fit perfectly, the style of the game and the whole vibe of the game just fit perfectly for the time, and I would have been 12 years old at the time and just absolutely fell in love with this game, and I still really enjoy it today. So there you have it guys, that is my top 15 side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I really hope that there is at least a few in there that you haven't tried or didn't know of, and you can go out and either buy the game or load it up on MAME and give it a crack. I especially recommend arcade games like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Alien vs Predator, and obviously the top pick, Streets of Rage 2, if you can get hold of that on the Mega Drive. It's not particularly expensive. But yeah, all fantastic games, all games that I really enjoy, and I do love the genre. The side-scrolling beat-em-up genre is kind of petered out recently, but it is seeing a little bit of a revival on things like PSN and Xbox Live Arcade, and I know there are a couple of upcoming beat-em-ups coming out, particularly one for the Mega Drive that I'm looking forward to. So it's just a fantastic genre, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of a revival of it in the coming years. So thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers!